Before you buy Star Ocean: The Divine Force, there's probably a couple of things you might want to know in case you've never played the series before or haven't played it very much. If you haven't played them, you might miss a few things, including some key references. One of my biggest pet peeves jumping into a franchise several entries in is I'm missing a lot of the key commonalities and themes and things that I might have otherwise needed context for. The game isn't out yet. I'm going to try to provide context for any newcomers in the series. This is because I want people to really enjoy the games and not necessarily have to play the other 5 to 7 titles if they don't want to. I put together a list of topics with the help of some lovely friends in the Star Ocean Discords. Links for those down in the description. That way, if you don't feel like playing through 5 other games for a refresher, here's some of the basics. This way you also don't miss things you didn't even know were there to miss. I'm Solace, this is Solace and Dread. We produce reaction videos as well as analytical content primarily focused around Square Enix, Nintendo, and Capcom publications. So what the heck is Star Ocean? It's a franchise of action JRPGs characterized by having fast-paced, free action combat, a robust story, and always commingles futuristic tech with fantasy elements. This usually takes place in the form of somebody from Earth landing on an underdeveloped planet. The original game released only in Japan in 1996 on the Super Famicom, and the game's developing team actually came from working on the first game in the Tales series, Tales of Phantasia. There was some creative differences causing the split, which is basically that Tales of Phantasia was a little too basic and didn't provide enough options for player choice. So they formed what would eventually become Tri-Ace, who made all the Star Ocean games. Though the original game was never released in the West, we did get some remakes with a lot of quality of life improvements, made in the same vein as Star Ocean 2, which is a fan favorite in the series. Many of the themes and core gameplay mechanics carry still to this day from 1996 into this current release that's coming out in October. Now we're going to go through a list of topics that are relevant to the Star Ocean series as a whole and are probably going to make an appearance at some point throughout the game. They are chaptered down below. It should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. This video is going to be filled with spoilers from the previous games in the series. So if you intend to go back and play any of them and don't want to be spoiled, I would caution you against proceeding forward, but thank you for the view. Starting with the UP3, or as it's actually known, the Underdeveloped Planet Preservation Pact. Seems pretty self-explanatory, right? You're going to hear a lot about this, at least in the first section of the game. It's a federal law that states that races on all planets throughout the universe have the absolute inalienable right to independent development, free from cultural interference, invasion, and other destructive activities by more advanced beings. This is pretty easy to understand the importance of. Imagine showing a spaceship to a group of people from the Middle Ages. See, this would alter the course of that planet's entire history. They'd think you're a god, and that's what they want to avoid. So obviously this seems pretty important, but what hard lesson did they learn that made them develop the pact? How exactly did we get an example of its importance? Well, that would be because our lovely protagonist, Edge Maverick. In the game Star Ocean: The Last Hope, this actually takes place chronologically before the other games, and it's largely about the development and creation of the UP3. Our buddy Edge here managed to destroy the entire Earth. That's right, he destroyed the Earth. Now, did he push the button? No. But he did hand his spaceship's power core to a scientist in Area 51 back in 1957 on an alternate version of Earth. Said scientist puts it in a device, hits the button, kablooey! No more Earth. He then proceeded to spend the next hour or two of gameplay being a real moody bitch about it. Understandably so, he destroyed the Earth. After that, and a few other events, they decided to draft the Underdeveloped Planet Preservation Pact. It was a hard lesson they learned to avoid in the future and decided it was never ever going to happen again. Except it does. Like every time. Like every game hinges on the fact that they're going to break the UP3. Playing the demo, Raymond broke it like instantly. He didn't even think about it. He was like, yeah, this is the spaceship. I come from up there. I'll show you what all this fancy stuff is. Anyways, That's the UP3. They break it every single time. Funny enough, the trailers for Star Ocean 6 directly reference this. One of the bad guys talks about how it was necessary for future advancements to even happen in the first place. And I have to admit, he's right. Oh yeah, while we're on that guy specifically mentioned the Kenny family. The Kenny family is actually several main characters from the previous games, starting with Stephen Lightspeed Kenny, who was the first person to travel at light speed, greatly jumping space travel capabilities forward. Then came Ronix in Star Ocean 1, who was a main playable character. He also broke the UP3 within minutes. Then Ronix's son, Claude, absolute Giga Chad, one of the main playable protagonists in Star Ocean 2. He also broke the UP3. Then in Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness, or Star Ocean 5, there's Emerson T. Kenny, who, you guessed it, broke the UP3 within minutes of meeting him. It's good to have context on exactly who the Kenny family was. These aren't just historical names, these were main characters central to the story in previous entries. And one quick note about characters. Though it differs in different games, Star Ocean has been known to have a number of recruitable characters, and depending on who you play with and the choices you make, characters are missable or exclusive to playthroughs, which is always fun because it adds to the replayability. I almost forgot to put this in here. Let's talk about character endings. There's this cool mechanic in the game called private actions. At first glance, you might think that it's just there for exposition. As you travel throughout the game, you'll come across towns and your party will split up either by force or by choice. You can still find the party members, and talking to them will unlock the private actions, which may just be conversations, but sometimes they're even side quests. In one of the games, it actually turned the final boss into a nearly unbeatable super boss. God forbid you accidentally do that side quest and then don't know how to handle the final boss. But yeah, that's the thing. They affect the ending of the game. Star Ocean is known for having character endings in addition to the story ending. And all of what you get is based on the relationships between the characters, which are largely determined by what you do in private actions. There are items that can affect the relationship level between the characters, usually called Love Potion 256, something like that. They change the affinity levels, but you can't actually see the affinity levels. It's not like on a graph or anything like that. You just kind of have to guess. Just be aware whenever you do these private actions, everything you choose or do may end up affecting the character endings. Sometimes they will determine which characters end up getting married. Sometimes it determines which characters have ending scenes together. It affects everything. My guess is Star Ocean The Divine Force will probably incorporate this too. Real quick, let's talk about the post-game content and secret dungeons. At the end of Star Ocean games, there's always a bonus dungeon with insanely powered super bosses. But at the end of those dungeons is always a pair of nasty celestial beings named Gabriel Celesta and Ethereal Queen. Their names change slightly between the games, but they're recurring characters associated with the post-game of Star Ocean and have even crossed over into other Tri-Ace games, like Valkyrie Profile and Radiata Stories, among others. This is where the challenge of Star Ocean lies, and it's my favorite part of these games. They're some of the most difficult bosses I have ever faced in any game. Ever. It's not for the faint of heart, so only seek these two out if you want your shit mixed up. I'm positive that they will appear in the post-game of Star Ocean The Divine Force. And I'm kinda curious to see what that's like now that they can fly. There's actually several recurring NPCs that are closely associated with post-game content, items, and item creation, like Puffy, Santa, and Welch Vineyard. Sometimes she's even been a playable character and was able to join your party. She's a queen, you will treat her as such, she must be respected, she should be your first priority always, and despite what you think, she's actually the main character of the game, and you're really just assistants to her. I'm kidding, I'm not. Okay, let's talk about 4D Space. Again, major spoilers for other entries in the series. I warned you, I don't know what to tell you. At this point, I don't even know how long are we in the video? I have no idea. I'm not in the editing room yet. I'm filming, but you kind of brought yourself here on your own. Thank you for the watch time. One of the things that Star Ocean was infamous for, especially Star Ocean 3, Till the End of Time, as it's actually called, was that they essentially, I don't know how to phrase this delicately, they actually reveal that Earth and all of the other planets and everything the other games had been dealing with, and all of it was actually just a simulation. In fact, a simulation isn't exactly fair. It's a video game. It was a video game within a video game. You find this out after one of the most divisive plot twists to ever happen in a video game ever. They just one day busted out of the monitors, and all of the people walking around saw it and were wondering if it was a new feature of the game, and then it was all explained to them that everything that they knew was a lie and they were just bad code that needed to be deleted.
Level of existence they try to reach, they're still nothing but fabrications. Data should obey the will of their creator and submit to deletion.
It actually is a cool concept because it really introduced interesting conversations like, what is a soul? What counts as existence? If you have full conscience and are able to think and feel and act on your own, regardless of your metaphysical existence, you're as real as anybody else. So does that determine that you don't deserve to live because you're just code? A cool concept on paper, the execution is kind of what killed it. Basically, the effect was akin to you're fighting in another world of Sora, and then all of a sudden you have to fight Nomura in his office, which honestly, I'd pay a fair amount of money to do. If someone hooks up a fresh, hot, delicious steak and then they serve it to you on a trash can lid, I think that was the problem. The older I get, the easier it is for me to come to terms with what that was and accept Star Ocean Till the End of Time as a worthy entry into the series. I could make an entire video talking about why Star Ocean 3's plot twist was actually not as bad as people made it out to be, but that's not what we're going to do here today. I'm just here to give you the facts. The game is called The Eternal Sphere. Now, there is a chance that this may come up again. The reason that I have my suspicions that it could come up is, one, some of the characters have been spotted in the game's minigame, a chess-like minigame, in the trailers for Star Ocean 6. However, Star Ocean 3 happened several hundred years later. So either they just don't care or something else is at play. Not only that, but there were several conversations showcased about what it means to be a human, and that would be a perfect lead up into 4D space conversations. Okay, and one last big thing the game might make it easy for you to ignore, so don't, is item creation. A lot of the fun of the game, especially in Star Ocean 2 and 3, were actually in the game's menu. You're going to probably be introduced to a lot of skills and skill books, and you're going to need to learn how to craft things, and the item creation part of Star Ocean is always massive, and I feel sometimes you can even manipulate it to where you can get super powerful items very early if you're really, really curious. But it's robust. A lot of the times you're not given all of the clues as to what makes what. So sometimes you get the chance to kind of just experiment. It can be very time consuming and sometimes a little grindy. Hopefully it's not very painful. That being said, it is a part of the game. Now granted, they are going to introduce this to you, but the importance of it might be lost if you aren't paying attention. Star Ocean 5, you were pretty much able to ignore it completely and just continually buy items and gear from the game's various shops and not even have to worry about it. But where's the fun in that? Go make some cool sword. Other than that, I think you're good to go. Just a reminder, Star Ocean The Divine Force does release on October 27th, 2022, and it will be coming out on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Steam. We will be playing through it over on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SolaceandDread. You can come in, we can nerd out over Star Ocean, we can compare notes, you can tell me which characters you like, which ones you hate, you can come and complain to me how ugly you think Raymond is. It's a chill time. I tend to tweet a lot of information about Star Ocean The Divine Force. Feel free to follow us over on twitter.com/SolaceandDread as well. Links for all that in the description. So tell me, how'd I do? Is there anything big that you think I need to cover that I didn't in this video? Or are you excited or even mildly interested in picking up Star Ocean the Divine Force? It is pretty niche in the West, and it's taken a long time for me to see that. But I want as many people to play it as possible because I just love talking about Star Ocean. That's it from me. Thanks for watching, see you soon, and long live the Turtle Kingdom. Enjoy your playthrough of Star Ocean the Divine Force.